The first task we need to accomplish in order to complete this code clinic is to get the data that we will use. As I mentioned in the introduction, the data is stored at lpo.dt.navy.mil, so let's go there now just to see what the data format looks like. This website contains a lot of different information for both the deep moor and yellow barge sensors. These weather buoys are constantly gathering data about the air conditions at their location, including wind speed, air temperature, sunlight, and more. On the right, there is a webcam that takes a picture of the station outpost every 60 seconds. We could try to get the data directly from this home page, but the problem is that it has a lot of formatting. It would require lots of specialized code to get this data, and if the format of this web page were ever changed, our solution wouldn't work anymore. Instead, let's click on the raw data link. This brings us to a much more standard file structure with all of the relevant data listed. We're looking for the deep moor weather data, so let's click on that. When users interact with our application, they are expected to specify a year, a month, and a day. So let's look at 2014, for example, and then choose a random day on the list. This folder contains exactly the data we want: air temperature, barometric pressure, and wind gusts. If we click on any of these, you can see that inside this folder, the data is just stored as numbers with time and date stamps, which is a very easy format for Java to access. Now let's look at the code that we wrote to access this data. I'm using the Eclipse Integrated Development Environment to write this code, but any Java IDE will work. What I've done here is I've created a method called getData, which will return the data in an array list. To access the data, I must first specify the URL, so I just copied the URL from the previous page. So we have lpo.dt.navy.mil/data/dm. Java actually has a URL object, so the syntax is just URL data source equals new URL. From this URL, we can then define a buffered reader to read the text to which it refers. The syntax here is buffered reader data equals new buffered reader, new input stream reader, data source.openStream. A stream is Java's term for an external data source where the data is read one item at a time rather than downloaded in a single chunk. Since we want to read one line of this file at a time, using a stream makes sense. The easiest way to store this data is in an array list of doubles, so I defined it using an array list and called it wind data. To actually download the data into this list, I defined a string called input line, and then a while statement which reads lines from the data one by one until there are no more lines to read. Within this while statement, the code to execute is winddata.add, double, parse double, and input line. This basically takes the string from the input line and treats it as a double, since it is in fact a double rather than a string in this case. However, remember that the data on the server isn't just a number currently, it's a date, a time, and a number. The actual data starts on the 20th character of each line, so I can add the function substring20 to get rid of all the extraneous information. Finally, be sure to close the data stream and return the array list that we have now defined. With this, we have the ability to get data from a URL.